Our next guest warns the risk of a hot war between the U.S. and China is growing. Yale senior fellow Stephen Roach is a former chairman of Morgan Stanley Asia. He also wrote the book Accidental Conflict: America, China, and the Clash of False Narratives. Stephen, it's always great to get your take on all things China. And I'm wondering how you would, now you're a professor, how you would grade the calculus that was done by Kevin McCarthy in meeting with the Taiwanese president at this moment in time.
Well, Melissa, I think nothing happens by accident in Washington when it comes to China, and the same is true of China with respect to the United States. McCarthy, like his predecessor Nancy Pelosi, there's no big secret as to what the message they're sending, as Guy just indicated. They're offering support for Taiwanese independence. They won't say that explicitly, but that is the not so subtle subtext. And for China, that is their red line. And they pushed back last August, and they will most assuredly push back after this meeting. It wasn't, quite the same thing, but it clearly raises a real warning flag for them that we're going to keep, putting our foot on their throat. I was in China last week. I was at the same meeting that Tim Cook was at. And, sure, he was saying positive things about Apple's relations with China because he wants to keep doing business with them in terms of selling products, but also in offshoring production to China at considerable saving to American iPhone addicted consumers. So he's walking a fine line here. And then, the select committee, we know where they're coming from. They want to bash anyone and anything that has anything to do with China. And they will, drag these guys, all the multinationals you just cited, will probably be brought in front of their committee and interrogated, just the way the TikTok CEO was harangued last week in Washington.
McCarthy said after this meeting that he believes that there's a bipartisan position on the need to speed up arms deliveries to Taiwan. So, the rhetoric is certainly there, and I don't think that there's any sort of hidden message as to what the intent is when it comes to Taiwan and China, Stephen. When it comes to the multinationals, if you were in the position as you were before to advise these companies, what would you say in terms of, whether or not they should be prepared that they have to pull their business out or in some way pare it back?
Well, a lot of multinationals have made major commitments to China, and they certainly don't want to pull out. But I think at the same time, Melissa, they're in their boardrooms, they're all talking about contingency plans, about hedging their offshore production away from China. Apple's already done that with shifting some iPhone assembly and production to Vietnam and India, a small amount. But I think, all multinationals who have made such a massive commitment to China want to at least begin to work hard on a plan B here.
What is your guess on what the retaliation from China might be? Not only do we have this going, we have also, the hearings on TikTok not that long ago. And so do you think that it would be a hit to U.S. companies in China, or would it be something more along the lines of a sort of like not a military, but maybe a cyber or something like that, as opposed to on industry?
Well, look, last August, they certainly had a major, probably the single largest PLA military exercise in the Taiwan Straits in years, if not ever. And I think you can look for a similar type of response, maybe not as extreme, maybe just as extreme. We don't know. They have moved aircraft carriers, in the Taiwan Straits close to the island, and they are reported to have other ships significant presence of ships in the area as well, and whether or not they move them into the same type of warning position, I have no idea.
Right. Stephen, thank you. Nice to see you. Stephen Roach. It's one thing to move away production out of the country, but you can't move your coffee store out of the country.
Right.
If that's what you do. You can't move. You know, it's like all these companies that sell into and depend on the Chinese consumer. And the thing is that the Chinese government doesn't necessarily have to take a hit. They can engineer a social media sort of campaign for there to be a strike on U.S. companies by the consumer. I mean, we've seen that before.
Yeah, we've talked about it. I mean, when you think about Apple and where they sit as far as market share, they're in the top 5 of smartphones. They're not 1, they're not 2. When you think about Tesla and EVs, it's the same sort of situation. And if there's some reason for some nationalistic fervor from a consumer standpoint, I think that's definitely going to be, listen, when a guy like Stephen Roach, who we've all followed for so long and knows China, better than most of us know the U.S. economy, is sounding the way he is. I'd also make the point is like, I'd be worried about the other visits that he made to the Kremlin not too long ago. He just brokered this deal between the Saudis and the Iranians. When you think about that, there is this bipolar situation setting up. And when you talk about the potential for an economic war moving to a hot war, then you have to start thinking about the precedents that were set by U.S. multinationals when Russia invaded Ukraine, to your point. And that nationalistic consumer behavior is something that I think will be felt by our companies over here.